It's pretty clever the way that even the posters for this movie are reminding us of how we need to enter the theater right now. Tenet is the new film written and directed by cinematic genius Christopher Nolan. It stars John David Washington as an unnamed CIA agent who passes a test operation and is recruited to a very complicated and unusual mission that will decide the fate of the world. The mission is kind of hard to describe, but it involves dealing with objects and individuals that are moving backwards in time due to some people in the future who have discovered how to invert time. This movie is crazy, confusing, and is another thrilling effort from Christopher Nolan. It comes up short of the masterpieces that are The Dark Knight, Inception, and Interstellar, but it's a high-concept, action-packed mindbender that has had me deep in thought since I saw it on Tuesday night. I equipped myself with a salmon dinner before going to see this movie, and it still rattled my brain. The story is so complex that reportedly, even the actors had a hard time completely understanding it. It's in the third act, when the movie gets awesome, that things start to fall into place more, but it's still the kind of movie that you need to watch at least twice, once for the questions, and a second time to get all the answers. I hope. The action set pieces are jaw-dropping on all levels. Knowing how Nolan goes above and beyond with practical effects, for a scene where a 747 cargo plane crashes into a hangar, I would have expected nothing but for Nolan to actually buy that plane and film it crashing. And he did. This movie only has 280 VFX shots, which as Nolan pointed out is fewer than most romantic comedies. What makes the action even more impressive is the stunt work, which for the time inversion scenes the actors had to perform backwards, and even on some occasions had to learn to speak backwards. It all culminates in scenes that are bewildering to imagine being filmed, like a hand-to-hand combat scene in which John David Washington, moving forward in time, fights a guy who's moving backward in time. This does bring me to the only thing that I had a hard time believing after accepting the impossible concept. Early in the movie, the unnamed protagonist is being trained to deal with objects that have inverted entropy, like positioning himself in such a way that a bullet will shoot itself back into his gun. I know, it's so weird, my mind is exploding just talking about it. You'd think that this is something that would take a lot of training to master. It would be exponentially harder than just firing a bullet accurately. But he gets in the swing of things pretty quickly, and I just don't see it being that easy. In addition to the problems I have, the sound mixing, something that was done to perfection in Nolan's last movie Dunkirk, is strangely mediocre in Tenet. There are times when there's a lot of noise, like a scene on a ship, and I had a hard time making out what the people were saying. The music is also turned up to a headache-inducing degree. This is the first Nolan movie since The Prestige that wasn't scored by Hans Zimmer. This time it's Ludwig Göransson, and he's done one memorable score that I know of, and that's Black Panther. His music for Tenet on its own is good, but it seems to oversell what's going on. It will get really massive at unnecessary times. Because of how loud it gets, this might be the first movie that I recommend against seeing in IMAX, despite some enormous shots that do look very stunning in the format. All the actors do a good job with what they're given, especially Elizabeth Debicki, whose character bears the most emotional heft in this story. And John David Washington's protagonist is interesting, in that he's a guy who has made his living racing against time, and now he's dealing with a situation where time is being cheated. Without getting too detailed just yet, he gets to thinking that time will just work itself out in this case. He goes through an arc that eventually brings up some really challenging themes and questions, like if you believe in fate and destiny, or if you believe in a god that has plans to prosper you, does that really justify just doing nothing and taking whatever comes at you? It really seals the meaning behind the title, too. Not just that the word Tenet is a palindrome which mirrors the premise, but also the definition of the word, a basic principle of a philosophy or religion. If you believe in just about anything, if you believe in something greater, this movie is really going to strike a mental chord with you. So while Tenet may be a disappointment for Christopher Nolan on a few technical levels, it has all the gigantic set pieces, twists and turns, and wildly original ideas that you know to expect from him. Man, what I'd give to get inside that guy's head. I'm not going to score this movie on the fact or facts just yet. To get a full grasp of everything that goes on in the movie, I am going to see it again, with closed captioning glasses if I can. But I will say right now, I recommend seeing it in theaters. I would really like to see this be the movie that puts theaters back in business. Christopher Nolan has such a passion for filmmaking, and such a respect for the theater experience, I think he deserves it. And since there's not a whole lot of new movies coming to the big screen in these next couple of months, I imagine it will be in theaters longer than normal. But even so, it needs $800 million just to break even. So follow the guidelines, wash your hands, wear a mask, and I mean that in the nicest way. Keep your distance from those you don't know, and go see Tenet. And I hope you'll stick around for my spoiler review once I see it a second time. I am really looking forward to getting further into the religious and philosophical themes of this movie. That's a wrap, thank you for watching, I hope you found this review helpful. Like and share, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop.